I wasn't supposed to hear it. She was in the kitchen, lights dimmed, back turned to me as she whispered into her phone. It was almost midnight. I had just come back from a late business dinner with potential investors, too tired to announce myself. I slid my shoes off at the door and stepped quietly down the hall, thinking maybe she was watching one of her shows. Instead, I froze in place when I heard her voice. Tonight, I'll finally kick that fool out, and my lover will move in with me. That sentence, sharp, venomous, soaked in arrogance, carved straight through my spine. I didn't breathe. My name is Ryan, 37. I built my marketing firm from the ground up. I gave Amanda, my wife of 6 years, everything. And I do mean everything. A lake house in Wisconsin. A white Range Rover with her initials engraved on the seats. 3 vacations a year. Spa days and shopping weekends. Everything, except, apparently, whatever her degenerate side piece was offering her behind my back. I stood there, leaning slightly on the hallway wall, hearing her giggle like a teenager. Her voice softened as she dropped her pitch to a murmur. He has no clue. I'll cry a little, act hurt, maybe even say he was abusive. No one will question it. Then we're free. Finally, free. Free? I gave that woman a life people dream about. And she was going to throw me out of my house? I took one step into the kitchen. She didn't hear me until I spoke. If you're done, Amanda, I said, voice steady like a blade, then so am I. Her hand jerked. The phone slipped from her ear and clattered against the marble counter. Her mouth hung open, painted in that smug crimson lipstick she thought made her look dangerously elegant. She stared at me like she'd just seen a ghost. How long have you, Ryan? It's not what it sounds like. I cut her off with a raised hand. I had already heard everything I needed. I wasn't interested in the amateur theater she was about to launch into. This house is mine. You, your lover, and your lies are no longer welcome here. She blinked hard. Her face went from fake surprise to offended confusion in a heartbeat, like I was the one ruining her fantasy. Are you serious right now? She hissed. You're making a huge mistake. You don't even understand. No, I said, walking past her to the front door, you don't understand. I already hired security. She laughed, loud, desperate. You're bluffing. But as if the universe wanted to make my timing cinematic, headlights pierced through the frosted glass beside the entrance. Her lover had arrived. I watched her whole body stiffen like a puppet caught mid-act. A black duffel bag dropped on the front porch. A man, tall, bearded, maybe early 30s, grinned at her through the door like some smug savior from her twisted love story. Amanda started toward it, fumbling for the handle. Then 2 large men stepped out of the side hallway, Michael and Dean. Both ex-military. Both silent. Both waiting for my nod. I gave it. Amanda's lover barely got 2 steps into the house before he was pinned and escorted back to his car like the low-life homewrecker he was. Amanda screamed, throwing curses and wild threats, but they didn't touch her. They simply opened the door, gestured to the lawn, and let her know in a voice flat as steel, you're no longer welcome here. You've got 5 minutes to collect your things. Anything left behind will be incinerated. She was in complete shock. And I was cold. I felt nothing. Just pure, calculated fire burning in my chest. I froze her accounts while she was screaming in the driveway. Took back the car key fob. Called the lawyer. Cut her name from every document with surgical precision. That night, I slept like a soldier after battle. And when I woke up the next morning, 76 missed calls. Mostly from her. Some from her sister. One from her mother. I didn't listen to a single voicemail. Because Amanda's nightmare had just begun. And I was only getting started. The thing about betrayal is it never really hides well. It leaves traces. Stains on the soul. Echoes in the routine. I should have seen it coming. No, scratch that. I did see it coming. I just ignored it because I was in love with the woman I thought she was, not the viper she turned into. It wasn't just the phone call that night. That was just the final straw, the bullet through the windshield. But long before Amanda whispered sweet poison to her side piece, I noticed the cracks. Subtle at first, then glaring. She used to kiss me goodbye every morning. Then one day, she stopped. No reason. No argument. Just stopped. She used to text me random things throughout the day. Look at this dog meme. Miss you. Let's get sushi tonight. Then those turned into one-word replies. Cold. Hollow. Like someone answering a customer service chat. Then the perfume changed. She always wore Chanel when we went out, said it reminded her of Paris, where we got engaged. But then it was something fruitier. Younger. I caught a whiff of it on her scarf once and made a stupid joke. Smells like high school gym class in here. She flinched. Now I know why. The emotional distance was growing faster than I could cover. I thought it was stress, maybe depression. I asked her to go to therapy with me. She said I was being paranoid. That's her favorite word, paranoid. She used it when I asked about the late nights out with her friends, the makeup she'd apply before yoga, the sudden need for privacy on her laptop. I'm a marketer by trade. I read behavior for a living. But when it came to Amanda, I silenced my instincts. Until one afternoon, a week before the phone call. I was working from home. She thought I was at the office. She came in all dolled up, humming to herself. I stayed in the guest room, curious, and maybe a little hopeful she was planning something romantic. She wasn't. Her phone was on the kitchen counter. Unlocked. One message lit up the screen. I missed last night already. Your body was made for sin. I stared at it like a fool. My heart didn't just break, it disintegrated. I took a screenshot, emailed it to myself, and put the phone back without a sound. That night, she brought me my favorite dinner, lasagna. She laughed, made small talk, even poured us wine. She called me babe. I chewed glass and smiled. That's when I started preparing. I hired a PI, got security ready, froze the accounts quietly. I wasn't going to just catch her. I was going to bury her little fairy tale. And yet, even with all that knowledge, nothing compared to hearing her actually say it aloud. Whispering my demise like it was some sexy secret. I'll finally kick that fool out. Fool. She thought I was the fool. But that night, as she stood outside screaming into the night while her lover was being escorted out like a drunk at a wedding, I saw her real face. Not the one she showed to dinner guests. The real one. The cold, calculating one. The face of a woman who had already rewritten the story in her mind, where she was the victim, and I was the villain. Too bad I kept the receipts. I printed every message, took photos of her phone, recorded her phone call, forwarded it all to my lawyer. Her lies weren't just exposed, they were legally documented. She wasn't getting the house, or the car, or my reputation. I wasn't going to just survive this. I was going to win. Amanda came back 2 nights later. I had security let her onto the property for exactly 15 minutes. She stomped up the driveway like a woman on a mission, heels clacking, sunglasses still on at 9 p.m., fake confidence oozing from her every step. She looked like someone playing the role of a strong woman in a low-budget drama. I waited in the living room, arms crossed, already exhausted by what I knew was coming. She didn't even greet me. You can't just kick me out of our house, Ryan. You've completely lost your damn mind. I didn't flinch. It's my house. Your name's not on the deed. You want to be gone, remember? She rolled her eyes and scoffed like I was a child. That was a private conversation. You had no right to listen in on me. I actually laughed. So you admit it. That shut her up for a second. I took a slow step forward. Tell me, Amanda, were you going to do it that night? Toss my things on the lawn? Pretend to cry? Tell the neighbors I hit you? I've seen this movie before. She folded her arms, still wearing that smug little smirk. You're being dramatic. It wasn't serious. Just fun. You don't get it. You've been boring for years, Ryan. That hit like a sucker punch. Not because it hurt, because it was so brutally cheap. Like I was disposable. Boring. I repeated. I worked my *** off to give you everything you asked for. The house. The vacations. That ridiculous necklace you just had to have in Milan. And while I was building our future, you were letting some broke joke of a man play house in your fantasies. She snapped back without hesitation. At least he sees me. You don't. You're always at work, or thinking about work, or talking about numbers. I needed something more. More than loyalty? More than respect. I asked, my voice calm but trembling underneath. You could have talked to me, but you chose deceit. Amanda tilted her head, her expression hardening. Maybe I didn't want to fix it. Ever think of that? I stared at her, trying to find even a flicker of guilt, but there was none. Just that same self-serving arrogance she'd worn for the last 6 months. I know everything, I said finally. The texts. The calls. Your plan to cry abuse. You even used that line before with your ex. I found everything. Her face froze. She hadn't expected that. You were going to ruin me. Gaslight me. Make me the bad guy, I continued. But I was 2 steps ahead. She tried to compose herself, but the cracks were showing. Fine. So what now? You kick me out and think that's it? You'll end up alone. No woman will ever trust you after this. I shook my head slowly. You don't get to flip this. I gave you everything and you treated me like trash. I'm done begging for love from someone who only knows how to lie and manipulate. Amanda's face contorted with fury. You'll regret this. No, Amanda, I said, walking past her toward the door. You will. Security escorted her out again. She screamed at them this time, called me every name in the book. But it didn't matter anymore. For the first time in years, my home was finally quiet. And I didn't miss her voice at all. That night after she left again, I sat in the living room, alone, lights off, a glass of bourbon in my hand. No music. No TV. Just the low hum of the refrigerator and the buzz of my mind replaying every lie Amanda ever told me. It was like a floodgate had opened. Things I dismissed as harmless or casual were now screaming in my memory. All the girl trips that never had pictures. The night she came home with damp hair but claimed she never left the house. The password changes on her phone. The sudden urge to be more private in her personal life. It was all there, hiding in plain sight. And I had been blind. Willfully blind. Because I loved her. Because I believed in marriage. Because I thought that if I kept being the good man, the patient one, the provider, she'd eventually appreciate me again. Instead, she treated my loyalty like weakness. Like I was some background character in the drama she was writing. And now that I had flipped the script, she didn't know how to react. The 76 missed calls turned into messages, long, manipulative paragraphs followed by voice notes that swung between tearful apologies and explosive blame. I listened to one. Ryan, you don't understand how hard it's been for me. You're always so cold. I didn't want to hurt you. I was just lonely. Lonely. She cheated, lied, and plotted to destroy my life because she was lonely. I didn't bother replying. I forwarded every message to my lawyer and blocked her number. She tried calling from other phones. Then her sister texted me. You need to talk to her. She's breaking down. Good. Let her break. Let her feel the hollow pit that I've been sinking into for the past 2 years. Every time I looked at her and felt that something was missing, something I couldn't name until now. I stayed quiet. I didn't rant on social media. I didn't tell mutual friends. I let the facts speak for themselves. But the silence, that was what really drove her insane. 2 days later, I received an email from her. Subject line, please, just one conversation. She poured out some nonsense about how her lover wasn't who she thought he was, how he'd gotten violent when she told him I'd thrown him out, how he ghosted her after the incident. She was scared now, lost, and claimed she had made a terrible mistake. I stared at the screen, then closed the email. I wasn't her safety net anymore. She had chosen the fantasy, the affair, the lie. Let her live in it. I changed the locks again, upgraded the cameras, told the doorman at my office not to let her in if she showed up. I wasn't just protecting myself from her anymore. I was erasing every part of her from my life, like a virus being scrubbed from a hard drive. But even with all of that, I'll admit something. There were nights I couldn't sleep. Not because I missed her, but because I missed who I thought she was. That's the worst part of betrayal. You don't just lose a person. You lose your own memories. Every good moment becomes tainted. Every smile feels fake. You start to question your reality. Was she ever really mine? Did she ever really love me? Was it all just a game to her? And the truth is, I may never know. But what I do know is this. I survived the collapse. And now, I was learning how to live in the quiet. After the silence came the rage. Not the kind you shout with. Not the kind that breaks things or explodes in public. Mine was colder, quieter. It sat deep in my chest like a block of ice, heavy and sharp around the edges. It showed up in small things. I started driving with the windows down, even in the cold, just to feel something. I stopped replying to friends' messages because I couldn't pretend to be okay anymore. I took her framed photos off the shelves, not to burn them, not to throw them, just to avoid looking into the eyes of someone who had kissed me in the morning and betrayed me by nightfall. You don't realize how many corners of your life someone fills until they're gone. Amanda was in the playlist we used to cook to. The mug that said, his on my kitchen shelf. The name of the damn Wi-Fi network. Everything was infected. One day, I found her favorite scarf tangled in the laundry. I held it for a second, and before I knew it, I was gripping it like it could answer me. Why? That question lived in my head rent-free. Why did she do it? Why risk everything? Why lie to my face with such ease? And every time I thought about asking her, I remembered that call. Tonight, I'll finally kick that fool out. She didn't just betray me. She planned to erase me. That's when the anger started to mutate into something worse, emptiness. It's easy to feel alive when you're angry. But when that runs out and all you're left with is silence, that's when it gets dangerous. I couldn't focus at work. My assistant noticed. So did my clients. I found myself drifting off mid-meeting, replaying old arguments in my head, wondering if that was the moment she stopped loving me or if she ever had. I stopped going to the gym. I stopped shaving. I looked in the mirror and saw a man I barely recognized. Eyes sunken, face hollow, smile forced. It wasn't just the end of a marriage. It felt like the end of me. One night, around 3 a.m., I drove out to the lake house alone, the same place where I proposed to her. I sat on the dock in complete darkness, just the sound of the water slapping the wood below. And I cried. I cried for the man I used to be, for the man who believed in Amanda, for the man who thought loyalty meant something. It wasn't loud. No sobbing or screaming. Just quiet tears running down my face like I'd sprung a leak and didn't know how to stop it. That's when I realized something important. She didn't just cheat on me. She broke me. And I had let her. I gave her everything, my trust, my heart, my future. And in return, she handed me a slow-motion collapse wrapped in pretty words and fake smiles. But even in that moment, alone, broken, exhausted, I felt a tiny shift. A spark. It wasn't healing. Not yet. But it was something. I wiped my face, stood up from the dock, and looked out at the moonlit water. Amanda was gone. But I was still here. And I wasn't going to stay broken. The healing didn't come in waves, it came in fragments. Little moments that didn't feel like much at the time. Like waking up one morning and realizing I hadn't checked my phone for her messages. Or going through an entire day without thinking of what I could have done differently. It started when I changed the locks on the lake house. That place had been a shrine to a lie. The way she used to run barefoot across the deck, wine glass in hand, laughing like she was in a perfume commercial. I used to replay those memories like a fool, imagining that love lived there. But after I cried on that dock, I went inside, threw out the scented candles she liked, and stripped the bed of the floral sheets she insisted we buy in Paris. I opened the windows and let the cold air wash everything out. I wasn't going to preserve the smell of betrayal any longer. A few days later, I opened a storage unit in town. Not for my things, for hers. Every pair of heels, every piece of lingerie she wore while lying to me, every happy wife, happy life, wall decoration she smugly hung. I packed them all up. Carefully. Neatly. Not out of respect, but closure. She tried reaching out again. This time through her lawyer. Apparently, she wanted to discuss reconciliation. Her lover had disappeared, just as I expected. Probably realized she wasn't the fantasy woman she pretended to be. I heard whispers that he was unemployed, living off some savings, and now ghosting her when she tried to contact him. Classic. She was alone. And now she remembered I existed. I declined the meeting. Sent my lawyer instead. He delivered the message plainly. There will be no reconciliation. There will be no discussion. There will only be legal procedure. That broke something in her, I think. A few days later, she left a voicemail. Her voice was shaking, different from the usual manipulative tone. Ryan, I know I messed everything up. I was stupid, selfish. I don't even recognize the woman I became. Please, can we just talk? I don't want to lose you. Not like this. I deleted it. Not out of anger. Out of mercy. If I replied, I'd only be giving her a chance to rewrite the narrative. To cry, twist things, maybe even try to seduce her way back in. But this wasn't about punishment anymore. This was about survival. I started going to the gym again. Got back into my morning routine. Cut sugar, cleaned the fridge, rearranged the living room. One day I stood in the mirror and saw my old self coming back. Not quite the same, maybe scarred, but solid. Strong. One afternoon, I ran into an old friend from college, Jess. She always had this no-nonsense attitude, the kind that could slice through any awkward silence. We grabbed coffee and talked for hours. Not romantically, not emotionally, just talked. It reminded me that the world still existed outside of Amanda, that people could laugh without hiding things, that trust was still possible, even if it had to be earned slowly. It hit me later that night. I had turned a corner. For months, I had been living in the wreckage, picking up pieces of who I was, trying to rebuild from the ground up. But now, I was doing more than rebuilding. I was reinventing. Amanda's betrayal wasn't the end of my story. It was the reset. And I was finally ready to write the next chapter. By the time the divorce papers were finalized, I was no longer angry. I was resolved. It happened on a Thursday. I remember because I was drinking black coffee at 7 a.m., checking emails when the notification came through. Final decree of dissolution. Signed. I stared at it for a long time, not because I didn't expect it, but because it felt surreal. It was official. Amanda was no longer my wife. There wasn't a celebration. No champagne cork, No toast to freedom. Just quiet. A peaceful silence that didn't need to be filled anymore. I leaned back in my chair and let the feeling sink in. It didn't hurt. That was the surprise. I thought I'd feel a deep sting, maybe a sense of finality that would crack me open. But instead, I felt weightless. She texted later that day. Amanda, so, it's really done. I didn't reply. She tried again. Amanda, do you feel better now? Like you've won. Still, no reply. The truth is, I didn't feel like I'd won. Because this wasn't a game. There was no prize. No satisfaction in seeing someone self-destruct. I felt clarity. I felt distance. I felt finished. That weekend, I visited my parents for the first time in months. My mom hugged me like I'd just come home from war. My dad patted my back and said nothing, which in his language meant everything. Over dinner, my mom asked me a question I hadn't really considered yet. So what happens next? It echoed in my head for days. What has happened next? I didn't have an answer. But I knew what wouldn't happen. I wasn't going to chase closure from Amanda. I wasn't going to let her back into my life in any form. No friendship. No slow rebuild. No late night, what-if calls. That door was shut. Permanently. But that didn't mean the healing was complete. There were still shadows that lingered. Trust issues that whispered at night. The fear that no matter how cautious I am, I could be fooled again. But I also knew this. I had made a decision. And for once, it wasn't reactive. It wasn't emotional. It was deliberate. I decided to protect my peace fiercely. That meant boundaries. Real ones. I got rid of anything she'd touched in my finances. I had the bank issue new accounts, changed my passwords, rerouted my mail. Her emails went straight to archive. Her photos? Backed up in a folder I'll never open. Her number? Blocked. Not because I was bitter, but because I deserved a clean break. One night, a mutual friend texted me out of the blue. She's telling people you were controlling. That you froze her out and emotionally abandoned her. I stared at the message for a minute and then simply wrote back. Let her talk. The truth doesn't need an audience. I meant it. I didn't need to clear my name or fight for reputation points. I had the truth. And I had peace. She, on the other hand, had her lies and whatever version of herself she still believed in. The last time I saw her, it wasn't planned. I was walking out of a bookstore downtown. She was across the street, holding a coffee, talking to someone. Her laugh sounded the same, but her face had changed. More makeup. More tension. She looked over, caught my eyes, and froze. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I just nodded once and kept walking. Because that chapter was over. And some doors? You never reopen. There's this moment that happens months after the storm, when the dust has settled, the noise has died down, and you're just sitting in your own space, alone, but no longer lonely. That's when the real clarity arrives. I was sitting in the backyard. A cold beer in one hand, my dog lying across my feet, the sky dimming into a soft orange like some kind of quiet apology from the universe. It wasn't the grand finale I thought I needed. It was better. It was peace. And in that stillness, I asked myself, what the hell did I learn from all this? So here it is. Not wrapped in cliches. Not sugar-coated. Just raw, unfiltered truth. Lesson 1. Never ignore the shift in energy. Men are taught to suck it up. To be logical, unemotional. But your gut? That instinct you bury under responsibilities and routines? It knows. When Amanda stopped touching me, stopped asking about my day, when her laugh didn't quite reach her eyes anymore, I felt it. But I rationalized it. I made excuses for it. If something feels off in your relationship, don't be ashamed to say it out loud. You don't have to accuse. Just ask. Open the door before it gets locked from the other side. Lesson 2. Loving her doesn't mean losing yourself. I thought that being a good husband meant giving her everything. Time. Money. Sacrifices. I chipped away at who I was to keep her happy. And she used that weakness against me. Real love should never demand your silence. If you're constantly adjusting to avoid conflict, that's not love. That's fear dressed in loyalty. Lesson 3. Betrayal isn't about the other man. At first, I obsessed over him. Who was he? What did he have that I didn't? But the truth is, it was never about him. It was about her. Her choices. Her entitlement. Her hunger for attention and drama. She could have slept with a rock, and it still would have been betrayal. Don't waste your energy on the third party. The person who made vows to you is the one who broke them. Lesson 4. Protect yourself, but not by becoming bitter. It's tempting to shut down after something like this. To label all women as dangerous. To swear off love, trust, connection. But bitterness is just pain that never got processed. I let myself grieve. I cried. I screamed in my car more than once. But then I released it. Because carrying her betrayal into my next chapter would mean she still owns me. And she doesn't. Not anymore. Lesson 5. Make your peace louder than her lies. She'll talk. They always do. She'll paint herself as the victim, tell half-truths wrapped in sob stories. Let her. I didn't defend myself. I didn't post on social media or ask friends to take sides. I just lived well. Moved on. The people who matter saw the truth in how I handled it. And those who believed her? They were never really my people anyway. Now, if I had to offer one piece of advice to a man who's where I was back then, it's this. Don't try to get back what broke you. She's going to reach out. Cry. Apologize. Blame it all on stress, childhood trauma, not feeling seen. Don't fall for it. Closure isn't something she gives you. It's something you give yourself. You're going to be okay. Maybe not right away. Maybe not for months. But one morning, you'll wake up, and her name won't be the first thing in your mind. And when that happens, smile. Because you made it. You walked through fire and came out with your soul intact. That's not just survival. That's power. And it's all yours now.